Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. Happy New Year. I hope you guys had a nice holiday season. I was gone for couple weeks and now I'm happy to be back and refreshed and ready to go. And if you're not already, go ahead and hit follow so that you don't miss a new episode whenever I post. Usually I do not take breaks, but I thought, episode on Christmas Eve and then on New Year's Eve, people are busy. We got stuff to do and focus on ideally some fun stuff in your life that doesn't have to do with being on your phone. So I thought we'll just hold off and still get as many episodes in this season, but it will just extend a little bit longer into March. So that's kind of fun. But anyway, I was thinking about, what's a good episode to bang off the new year with? And as I've spoken on this podcast before, I've done previous episodes around the new year. I'm a big fan, but I think it's complicated. I think a lot of people have a complicated relationship with the new year, with setting resolutions, with the pressure that can bring, the excitement it can bring. It really kind of depends on your disposition. But it's relevant this time. We're starting a fresh year. And if you're finding this episode at a later point, don't stress about it. What I'm talking about is more general than just how to make New Year's resolutions that don't make you want to shoot yourself. It's not so specific, but there is some inspiration through just naturally what's kind of in the cultural zeitgeist at this time of year. That's probably not the proper term to use, but anyway. I have a great listener question that I think helps get us into this topic. Like I said, you don't have to be at the start of a new year to find this information relevant because, as we'll hear in this listener question, a lot of it has to also do with the idea of getting your life together, getting your shit together, and that can happen at any time of the year where we're oh my God, I'm falling behind, or I've fallen off all my healthy habits and my goals, and I need to get my life together, and I'm a mess and whatever, that's an energy we can find at any time of the year. So anyway, I will get into the listener question. And if you're new here and you don't know how to ask me a question, you can send me an email at theevergreenrx@gmail.com, or you can text me or call me at 512-655-9888. I would love to hear from you, hear your question, hopefully get to answer it in an episode, and support you. So yeah, I like to answer these questions in a way that feels permissive and welcoming and accepting and not dogmatic or demanding or I know something that you don't know. I like to create more of a conversation around things and provide whatever support I can in a way that feels not overwhelming if possible. So that's the intention here, and I'm happy to have you. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll open up the shop for the first time this year and hear from this listener. It says, "Dear Evergreen, I feel this low-level urgency to get my life together. But when I ask myself what that actually means, I come up blank. I don't want to coast, but I also don't want to keep motivating myself through fear. What's the alternative?" Yeah. So, like I said, if you're listening live, we're a week into the new year. How y'all feeling? Because I think this question of, I need to get my life together, we can be feeling that at this time. I think the holidays or post holidays, we can get into this energy of it's time to buckle down and get serious. And sometimes there's this idea I need to undo my mistakes that I made at the end of the year. Whether that's not going to the gym as much or eating heavier foods or just being busy, being more spontaneous, not sticking to your routines, whatever. We kind of give ourselves a pass and then, once the new year comes, I'm going to get back on it. Which there's so much toxic rhetoric in that. like that we have to kind of make up for having fun or for enjoying ourselves, or there's a lot of stuff, even with like body image and eating and all of these ideas. It's like, oh, I'm bad, I was being bad, and now I won't be bad anymore, and I'll get my life together. There's a lot of unhelpful rhetoric that can come out. I think this can happen again around like summertime too. Summer, oh, like we're having fun, we're swimming, going to barbecues, like, and then once the fall comes around, it's like, oh, back to school, get it together, like follow your self-imposed rules again, because life is not just about, having a good time. And I think that my hope with what we're going to talk about today is kind of pointing out how those thoughts really don't serve us, which might be like, yeah, duh. Like, I know they're not very supportive, but some can be a little bit more sneaky about this idea of like self-discipline and being super, put together, emotionally regulated, whatever. Like some things, they don't seem as nefarious on the surface, but I don't think that they ultimately serve us in how humans actually can change and grow over time. I think the way that we want our growth to look like, or how we want our, ideal life to look like, the way we go about it is not always actually effective, or, up until this point in history, hasn't really worked in a sustainable way for anyone. And I think I'm sounding kind of vague right now, and I'm going to get into all of this in more detail. So I apologize if I'm sounding vague, but yeah, I think that there is a lot of lovely and potent energy to capitalize on in the new year. Hello, it's Capricorn season. Capricorns love to climb a mountain, to get shit done, to accomplish their goals. So it's a potent energy. But I think we're approaching it wrong, because anytime we are trying to, quote, get our life together, it's going to go sideways probably for a couple different reasons. One is that embedded in this idea, which I'm not surprised that this listener says they go blank when they think about like, what does it actually mean to get my life together? It's like embedded in the idea is something is wrong with you. Something is broken that needs to be fixed. Something's not together that needs to be put together. Just already we're starting on this foot of like, something's broken and I need like a total reinvention to be okay. So already that's a little bit like demotivating. Like, I don't know how it works for you, but for me, when I'm feeling like down on myself, I'm not very motivated. I'm not very like ready to take on challenges and to try something new. There can be more of a pessimistic, negative overall perspective when we're in that headspace. And the thing is, it's always more complicated than we think. Starting the year on the right foot, like I'm going to meditate, I'm going to eat clean, I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week, I'm going to start my hobbies back up and learn how to sew and whatever. Like we have all of these grand ideas, and it's just like, I will do this because I say I will. Sheer willpower, I will do this. And it's so much more complicated to actually change our patterns and the way we spend our time and our routines in life. And like I mentioned, like the idea of sheer will or self-criticism or fear as being good motivators, which, like, if they were, we'd know that by now. We'd all probably be much more motivated people, because most people are not struggling with self-criticism and using fear as a motivating tactic. We kind of know how to do that, even though it doesn't really work. So I think when we make these really general or grand statements about wanting to get our shit together, and we make these lofty goals and believe that at the end of that, whatever, once we reach these goals, we will like who we are, or we will be happy or fulfilled, it's just such a fallacy. And the idea that we can achieve all of these lofty goals through just willpower, I mean, I think unless you're Taylor Swift, willpower can only take you so far. But criticism and just punishment and being hard on ourselves, that is going to, get us to achieve all these goals and somehow at the end will result in happiness. It's like it doesn't even really make sense. And I'll talk more about, how we approach this differently, what the alternative is. But for one, I do think you have to start where you are. And if you're wanting to feel more satisfied with your life, like really starting with, is there anywhere I feel satisfied with right now? And can I focus on that? Can I grow on that? Is there something that makes me happy? If I talk to myself with more compassion and kindness, do I feel better? And isn't the goal to feel better? So maybe I'm still not going to the gym 4 times a week, but I'm speaking to myself with more kindness and I'm happier than I was 2 months before. Okay, that's probably pretty good. Anyway, I feel like I'm going off on a lot of tangents. I apologize. And maybe it's not so bad listening back, but right now I think I'm going on a lot of tangents. But I just have a lot of diverse thoughts about this. It's such a big topic. But anyway, let's break down what having it all together actually looks like. And this might be a little bit eye-opening, or I hope it can be eye-opening, because while I'm trying to break down, how there's flaws in even trying to get our life together, I really want to point out that the idea of having it all together is also kind of a fantasy. And when we perceive other people as having it all together, we might think that looks like being emotionally regulated. They got to handle control on their emotions, very disciplined without any resistance. This person that has it all together, they get up at 5 a.m. every morning and they're fine with it. They don't struggle. They don't hit snooze. There's no problem with that kind of discipline. They're happy to do the same thing every day and be consistent and never run into any problems. Also, that they're clear on direction and consistent, confident, unmessy, that life doesn't get in the way. And some of these things I think are just like a perception issue, that somebody is disciplined and they don't feel resistance about that, perceiving someone as confident who maybe doesn't really feel confident. But also that super emotionally regulated, disciplined, type A, like get it done, meets their goals type of person most likely is over functioning. Highly controlled over functioning, which doesn't necessarily mean happy or fulfilled. It can be kind of a nervous system response, a stress response of over functionality and emotional disconnect. What might seem emotionally regulated is actually emotionally disconnected. And there can be a lack of integration. So whoever you're comparing yourself to, you might think, oh, they've got it together. There can be a lack of integration, that you're relying on this one part that maybe can be disciplined and wake up no matter what and ignore how you feel if you want to sleep in, whatever. But that's just one part of you. And that comes at the cost of other parts being valued and listened to. There's a part of me that loves structure. And I've talked about this before. The very first episode of this podcast was about ritual versus routine. And that, was inspired out of my own journey and the fact that routines became very central to my growth, to my wellness, to like feeling like I have a handle on life. But as I've gotten older, and I would argue more integrated through my healing work, more spontaneous parts of me have come out, where I'm like, this morning I just really want to lay in bed a little longer and read my book before getting up. I know, it's crazy. It's a Tuesday. It's not a Saturday. I'm allowed to do that on Saturday. I'm not allowed to do it on Tuesday. But it's a Tuesday and I want to do it and I'm going to do it. And that means I'm not meditating as much. I don't do yoga every morning like I used to. I am not as disciplined or as controlled as I used to be, but I am a whole lot happier and I feel more integrated. And I keep saying this word, and if you don't know what I mean like, if you think about all these different parts of you, all the different sides and facets of who you are, instead of them being in these separate boxes where you have to kind of pivot from one to the other, or you chronically just kind of live in one state, what integration looks like is there's a dance between these parts. There's a seamless flow. Maybe a couple are activated at one time, or you can move easily from one part of yourself to another. And I think that's a big part of healing. And so when we look at this example of people that seem very structured and with it, that might not actually be the goal that we want. That's not the end point. Having it together all the time is also just like not human. Being messy sometimes, feeling unsure, changing your mind, changing directions, changing your goals halfway through, thinking you want to do something, trying it, and then deciding you don't actually want to do it. I mean, that is human. And I think that's a real sign of the kind of growth that we actually are striving for. And the thing is, a lot of us are not looking for growth, but an alleviation of the anxiety we feel from feeling like we're not enough. So when I'm speaking about integration and allowing yourself to ebb and flow and have goals, have dreams, have goals, like strive for things, but to allow it to not be linear and for it to be messy, and that helps us on a deep level with the feeling of not being enough. That no matter where we are, no matter how together we are or not, we can start to gain this feeling like, but it's okay. I'm enough. I'll try better next time, or I don't actually care about this thing anymore that I thought I should care about. I'm going to give it up, and it doesn't reflect poorly on me or my ability to push myself. So what is the alternative to motivating yourself through fear and through shame and guilt and self-criticism? What can we do instead, where we don't coast? We don't just want to, rest on our laurels, but we want to do this a different way. So my first thought, which I have been speaking about through this whole episode, and I have a whole episode on this idea specifically, is self-compassion. Self-compassion is a motivator. They have found through research that we believe that being hard on ourselves, being punitive and punishing and criticizing when we make mistakes is how we motivate to be better. And it's not true. It is not true. It can work for a little bit, but it's going to lead to burnout and other negative symptoms, versus self-compassion, which actually is a motivating force. So if you don't know anything about this, go to the link in the show notes, listen to my episode on self-compassion, and we'll tell you everything you need to know. But I love to bring it back there because it's just so essential, especially when we're thinking about, setting goals, growing, getting our life together, whatever. When we're doing our review and setting future goals and where do we want to go and what do we want to do next, take time to focus on what has gone right too. Look back on the past year and say, what have I done that's new, that feels good? How have I changed for the better? What am I proud of myself for? What are my accomplishments? Speak them out loud, write them down, spend time with them. That is a huge motivator. When we can bathe and savor in the positive feelings and the pride and the accomplishment, that gives us vitality and energy to do more. And it just also feels so much better. It feels so much better to move from that space towards the next challenge that might feel a little daunting than to come at it from a place of negativity or doubt in yourself and a feeling like, oh, I probably won't do this. I probably won't achieve this goal because I never do. Maybe it's just because you're never actually looking back long enough to see how far you've come. I would also say creating themes, not hard goals. I like this. I'm a little bit more of the personality type that gets stuck on rules. So if I make a hard goal, I kind of create homework for myself and it becomes a chore and a to-do and really doesn't do me any favors. So I've leaned more towards themes, ideas, words of inspiration. It does depend on your personality type. So if concrete goals work for you and give you something really clear to work towards, that's great too. But just as an idea, themes can be helpful. Prioritizing integration over hyperfunctionality. So this, I think, is a really different approach because sometimes it looks like foregoing how we want to be or who we want to be, how we want to show up in order to be more flexible and integrated with ourselves. So I lean towards hyperfunctionality for sure. I'm going to get shit done. I'm going to have these podcasts up on Wednesdays when I say. So like me taking a break for the holidays was kind of a big deal. I was like, well, I could, upload during the holidays and during my time off. Like, why not? But I just thought I need a break. I want a break. And that's more important to me right now than this arbitrary, I must post every Wednesday with no, break. And another example is like, I like to be the kind of person that shows up to the things I say I'm going to. I'm not going to ghost you last minute. I'm not going to cancel last minute. I don't like to do that. If I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. But, a couple weeks ago, I was having a really hard time at work and I had a really hard day. And I came home and I was talking to my partner about it and I was pretty emotional and just overwhelmed by everything. And it was like 20 minutes before we needed to leave for the party. And I'm crying and really upset. And time is just ticking and I'm thinking, I got to get up. I got to start getting ready right now. Like, we got to go. And, through the help of my partner and him pointing out and encouraging me, I came to the realization of like, oh my gosh, this is not what I need to be doing right now. Did I say I was supposed to go to a party? I don't think I said that part. But yeah, it was after a hard day of work and I had this party I was supposed to go to, but I was so upset and I was supposed to leave, like, get my hair looking okay, fix my makeup up and walk out the door and go to a party. And, through the encouragement of my partner and my own recognition, I was like, wait, this is not right. Like, I need to take time with myself right now. I need to take care of myself. I know I like to show up to things. That's the kind of person I want to be. I have this obligation, but I'm going to choose myself, putting my emotional needs first, being more integrated with myself over hyperfunctionality. Because I could have brushed my hair out, put on fresh coat of mascara, gathered up the pie I was supposed to bring and gone to that party and talked to people, probably had a relatively nice time and called it a night. Like, I could have done that, but it wouldn't have served me in what I needed in that moment. So I had to be flexible on kind of the goals, the way I view myself, who I want to be, how I want to show up. I had to be flexible with that and be like, it's okay. My friends are going to understand. And they did, of course. And this is what I need right now, over just blindly trying to be perfect and have it all together. So I'd say one of the biggest things to remember, choosing the long game over rapid dramatic change. We all want this snap your fingers, I'm different, I know how to do this thing, I feel confident, I feel good. We want to skip over the messy part, being a beginner, being unsure, not knowing what we're doing. And yet, usually that kind of change is not sustainable. It doesn't cellularly get into our being. We just have these spurts of going really hard at something and then giving it up. And boom, guess what comes in? You always give up. You can't do it. You're not good enough. So it can trigger all of those same thoughts and erode our self-trust that we actually can do things and we can meet challenges. We just need time, and it's a process, and it's not linear. We will take steps forward, we will take steps back. So building that self-trust over time by prioritizing the long game. If you want to go to the gym 3 times a week in the new year, but you're not going to the gym at all right now, maybe start with 1 time. And once you get that down, then go up to 2. Start with something that actually feels sustainable and achievable and less daunting, because that will help build your trust in yourself, build the good feelings that you're getting from doing this behavior, and encourage you through positive motivation to do more of what you want. So yeah, really keeping a tilt towards what is sustainable and starting there and trusting that you can build up over time. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So that's what I have for you. Like I said, the self-compassion episode will be linked in the show notes. I'll also go ahead and link my episode from last New Year's, because I have a whole thing about how to start fresh. And so if you're really wanting to get into this energy and do it from a more supportive, sustainable, loving lens than maybe you have in the past, I have that resource for you, so that will be linked below. And please reach out to me if you have a question or with thoughts about this episode. If anything resonated or inspired you, I would love to hear from you. You can find me over at the Evergreen RX on Instagram and on TikTok. Also, if you like to watch the video versions of these episodes, they're available on YouTube. So find me over there. And until next Wednesday, take care of yourself.